what is your message to Americans, I guess, in general, after experiencing life there in China and then coming here and seeing a difference? Do you have a message?
Yeah, I have a message. I have a very important message to the American people. That is, history is repeating. History is repeating because what I experienced in China, the kind of indoctrination, the kind of an absolute division among people, the kind of cancel culture, everything that I experienced back in Mao's China is happening right here in America. I can see through it right away in 2020. I can see that is a full-blown Marxist revolution. But most Americans had no idea. They were just shocked. What was going on? What happened to our country? Why? Because they don't know history.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hebrews and Shebrews, welcome to the Life Podcast. Today is a special episode, and it's a different format than most of our episodes. Most of the episodes, we talk to someone who is a Torah-observant believer who gives us their testimony. And this episode is the first of, I guess, a series of what I would like to do. I would like to interview a subject matter expert. Often, I think that subject matter expert is going to be playing some kind of informative or supportive role to aspects of our faith, like doctors who talk about unclean meats being unhealthy, that sort of on-the-nose thing. Today's content expert or subject matter expert is Xi Van Fleet. And she grew up during the Cultural Revolution in China, and she witnessed that firsthand. And then she moved to America in 1986 and lived here and loved it, and then started noticing some things that concerned her at some point. And so we're going to get her perspective of the Cultural Revolution and her perspective of modern day America. Thank you guys so much for watching the Life Podcast. Thank you for sharing this with everyone you know. Thank you for liking these videos. And thank you for your feedback, your comments, your interest. We love to hear from you. Tell us anything you want, good or bad, down in the comments. Without further ado, I give you Xi. Xi, thank you so much for being on the Life Podcast. We're glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad you found me through our mutual friend, Eric.
Yes, me too. I'm lucky that he knew you. And normally, as I told you before this interview, it'll be a believer who gives their testimony, and that's how I start out. How did you come into this understanding of the Bible? But with your story, I'm wondering if you could give us your life testimony, if you will. Like, tell us about your life and who you are a little bit, and then we can get into your thoughts on America and that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. Briefly, yes. And I was born, and I always say that, I'll continue to say that, I was born into the slavery of communism. And it's not something I choose, but my parents, they made that choice. They supported communism. They joined the revolution. But for me, I was just born into it. So when I was 7, the Cultural Revolution started. And that was Mao's last revolution to do 2 things. And that was a revolution for him to take down his own government, his own party. Why? Because he felt like he was not in control. So he wanted to burn everything down, take down his political opponent, and then build something back that he can totally control. The other is he wants to wipe out everything that is traditional and to build back with the supremacy of his own ideology, which is Maoism. That was the two, really the goal of the Cultural Revolution. And of course, I have no idea why he launched that Cultural Revolution. So to me, my memories was overnight. Everything turned upside down. The school was closed because no one was running the school. Why? Because the students ousted the teachers and the principals. No one was running the school, and so there's no school for me for 2 years. And so all we did as kids just went to the streets, and we witnessed the unfolding of the Cultural Revolution, of struggle sessions, of people being paraded because they were condemned as the enemy of the state by Mao. And who were doing it? The kids, the so-called Red Guards. They were really students from as young as elementary school all the way to college. They're doing the work. And then they went on and destroyed Chinese civilization, which Mao called the four olds: old tradition, old culture, old habits, and old custom. They all have to go, all have to destroy it, like the statues, like the street names, the institution names, whatever considered not revolutionary has to be changed, has to be renamed. And all the things that we saw here actually today in America. So that lasted for 10 years until Mao's death in 1976. So it's 10-year revolution. So when I finally graduated from high school, there's nothing for me. There's nothing for anybody because the economy was in ruins and everything was destroyed. And what do you do with these young people, including those Red Guards? Once they finish the job that Mao wanted them to do, they're all sent to the countryside to work in the fields, to get our so-called re-education by the peasants. So at the age of 16, I was sent to the countryside, and I worked there until 3 years, until finally the universities were opened to anyone who passed the examination. It was closed during the Cultural Revolution. When they reopened in the middle of the Cultural Revolution, they abolished all the examinations. So whoever were picked by the party leaders are qualified to go to college. No examinations. But finally, after Mao's death in 1978, they reinstalled the examination, college entry examination. I passed it, and I was able to go to college at the age of 19 and studied English. And eventually, I was able to come to United States in 1986, the year you were born, to come to this country, to pursue my graduate study. And I've been here ever since. And I think that's just a brief story of where I came from.
I'm sure you've thought a lot about what happened in China while you were growing up and before you were born even. What have you thought about why this ideology was able to take hold and kind of was very popular? Why did communism become a big deal there? What were people wanting that they saw in it, I suppose?
And it's interesting you ask that question. If you ask that question, it's because you can think critically. And the fact that you can think critically, you must have different sources of information, right? And then you can ask questions, why this, why not that? But growing up in Mao's China, I did not know anything else. I have no access of any other information. So the brainwash was just one way, whatever they put in my mind. And I have no way to challenge it. So I think the young people will never challenge anything. We just accepted whatever we were taught because we had no idea of something else. There was another choice. There's another ideology. We don't have that kind of a luxury. So that is the the power of indoctrination. You totally believe what you were taught, never questioned why this is not right.
So
And
it
we
was
just accept.
one note, boom, boom. This is
Yes, yeah, yeah. And that's what they try to do in our school. And I think it's interesting. Back then, I have to say, I have no access to other information. But here, the other information is a click away. But they did such a good job that the kids won't want to do that. They don't want to find out the other side, what they think. They don't want to find out or face the fact, because the fact somehow hurt their feelings. So they did a much better job, I would say, indoctrinating our kids here in America than what they did in China.
well, that is a good, I guess, segue into what is your message to Americans, I guess, in general, after experiencing life there in China and then coming here and seeing a difference? Do you have a message?
Yeah, I have a message. I have a very important message to the American people. That is, history is repeating. History is repeating because what I experienced in China, the kind of indoctrination, the kind of an absolute division among people, the kind of cancel culture, everything that I experienced back in Mao's China is happening right here in America. I can see through it right away in 2020. I can see that is a full-blown Marxist revolution. But most Americans had no idea. They were just shocked. What was going on? What happened to our country? Why? Because they don't know history. Why they don't know history? That's a good question, because it's not taught. And why it's not taught? It's because they don't want to teach American people the real history. When I say they, who are they? Those who in control of our educational system. Started in academia, now it is all the way to kindergarten. They will indoctrinate the kids as young as kindergarteners. So, and the media, of course, is controlled by the same people. They don't want to tell American people the truth. So American people, really few of them have the knowledge, the history, the knowledge of the history of communism, especially the Cultural Revolution that took place in China, that is now replayed right here in America. So I always say, history, without knowing history, you cannot understand the present.
This is The Truth Reformation 2.0, and it's now an audiobook read by the author, Luca Bathy. If you don't know about The Truth, it is an apologetics resource for us Torah-observant believers that answers every single question that all of your mainstream Christian friends and family have about why you would want to keep Torah. From sacrifices to food laws to, didn't Jesus break the Sabbath? Everything is in this book and all the Paul stuff. And now you can listen to Luke read it to you. So if you're interested, go to thewaydoc.com/thetruth. That's thewaydoc, like documentary.com/thetruth.
That's true. That's true. History seems like a very powerful tool that without, we're helpless. Kind of you have to take it as you can in real time. But why throw away those lessons? Yeah.
And they know it too. It's not like they don't know. They were just called people they don't like Hitler. Hitler, that's part of the history, right? And they teach the kids that history. And then they just use that, weaponize it, and use that to really call anyone that they don't like as Hitler. And so it's not like they don't teach history. They absolutely teach history. They teach fake history. They rewrite history. They erase inconvenient part of the history, and they weaponize history. That's what the 1619 project is all about, is to rewrite history so that let the children, and it's been used in many of the school curriculum, that America was built on slavery. And that is absolutely an example of how they weaponize history to indoctrinate the kids. For what? For one reason, to make them hate this country. If this country is built on slavery and our system is so rotten, our system is so racist. They don't say racism, they say systemic racism. They say structural racism. They say institutional racism. And why? Because they want people to realize this whole thing need to be what? Overthrown. That's their goal. That's really their goal.
Man, when did you, okay, so you came in 1986. I hope, maybe then you thought, oh, it's America. I have freedom. Everything's great. And maybe life was great. When did you start noticing similarities between what was happening in America and what you had left?
I'm so glad you asked that question. That is a great question. That's what happened to me. So I said, when I came here, I said, oh, finally, I left communism behind me. Now I'm in a country that is, free, that where I don't have to worry about what I experienced in China. I don't have to, freedom. It is autopilot. Nothing to worry about here in America. So I paid no attention to politics, and I did not really understand what's going on in politics. I thought, oh, it's just Democrats, Republicans. They have disagreement. They were just arguing about what's the best way to help American people. And so, seriously, if I ever paid attention back then of and the political debate, whatever, they all sound so good. I can't figure out. That's it. Good intention, whatever. They all sound so good. So I have paid no attention, and that was a huge mistake. And that's a mistake a lot of immigrants, I think, a lot of immigrants and Americans in general are making. They think politics really have little to do with them. They have everything to do with us. So gradually, I start to notice things here and there. And the first thing I think I noticed is political correctness, that we are supposed to say certain things certain ways. And at first I thought, okay, no problem, because there seems to be good intention. They want us to use kinder words. And but then, as we all know now, and then they keep changing the rule, and then they keep enforce their narrative on all of us. And gradually I said, no, this really remind me of Cultural Revolution. And I think I just started to pay more attention. But really, really my turning point is 2020. But before that, I already realized that America was on the wrong path. But it's 2020 and there's no mistake. There's no doubt, like, oh, there's a warning sign, there's troubling sign over there, here. No, it is a full-blown Marxist cultural revolution. And so by then I said, I can no longer just stay silent and I be an observer. And so that was the time in the end of 2020, I joined the local Republican committee and eventually joined the Republican Women's Club. And then I have email from the club saying, this day and day and the time, let's go to a school board and let's voice our concerns about what they're doing in school, the CRT back then. So I said, yeah, that I will do. And so I did. And I have no idea at all that my speech went viral. I have to tell you, I was surprised in many ways. One thing is that I said, well, it's just a local event, right? And I was so surprised it caught national attention. The other is, what did I say? I just said that this is kind of like a cultural revolution in China. Everybody knew that. Well, I find out soon enough that people don't know. And I would say a lot of people in that same room of the school board meeting, probably the first time heard something about the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And then I started journey, and I said, Americans don't know. And that's how I found out that Americans don't know. But then when I think back, I'm also the one to blame because I never really shared my story, not even with my family here, because it's something so unpleasant. I'd rather forget it. I'd rather put behind me. So I did not keep the story alive. I did not do my job to share to people the horror of communism. So then I started to be invited to, interviews and meetings. That's how Eric, we met. He invited me to his local meeting, and then we had it in the church. And then more and more, I realized that's still not enough just to have an interview here or give a presentation there. So a year later, I decided I must write a book. And so I quit my job in 2022 and spent the whole year. And so with the help of God, there's no way that I could have done that on my own. I mean, so a year later, my book is out. And
we'll link to it too on the bottom so people can check it out. And man, so can you tell us what is bad about communism, or what was bad about the Cultural Revolution, I guess, since that's what you experienced specifically too?
Okay. Well, it's bad because, as I said, the reason for Mao to launch that Cultural Revolution was for him to get power, right? I explained that he felt like the whole party was no longer loyal to him, that he was no longer in control of he believed that's his kingdom, and also he feel like there were still conflicting ideology there. That is the old Chinese tradition, the old Chinese values, they all have to be wiped out. And that's exactly the reason we're having the Cultural Revolution here. Someone want power, someone want to wipe out all the American founding values and principles and replace it with something new. Okay, so what's bad? Cultural Revolution is destructive. It is divisive. It is absolutely, it's a revolution. It's a war. So how bad was it? At the end of the Chinese Cultural Revolution, 20 million people lost their lives. The economy was non-existent. We were living in absolute poverty. Everything was rationed. We were all in starvation diet, and then the population was so divided because they're using the same political identity or identity politics to divide people in China, and turned everyone against each other, everyone. And even it lasted, the effect even lasts today, that no one trusts no one else. I mean, your enemy can be your spouse. Your spouse can turn you in. Your children can turn you in. And you, as a parent, can turn in your children. That is how destructive the Cultural Revolution was in China. And we see the same thing happening here. Not to that extreme yet, but we're way on our way, well on our way to total destruction of this of our country. Why? Why they want to do that? And the answer I already give. Someone want power. Someone want power. Who are those people? The globalists, the elite.
During that time, could you be a Christian in China? Could you have a religion, or?
Okay. This is important for people to think, to understand. I think still a lot of people think about, or at least that's what's taught in school. Communism is an economic system. And communism is really a good system because they want everyone to share the wealth, share, it's helping each other, caring for each other. It's all BS. It's not. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Oh, could you be a Christian in China at that time?
So, this is important to understand that communism is a religion. It is absolutely a belief system. And as a religion, and cannot tolerate other religion. They have to be all wiped out. And that started as soon as the Chinese communists took over China. And so in China, we have many religions. We have Buddhism, we have Confucianism, we have Islam, we have Christianity. And they absolutely destroyed all those religions. There are underground believers, the faithful, like a underground church. But I had no idea that they even existed. I found out later that yes, but to me, it's like they taught us in school that religion is the opium to the masses. They're all superstition, and so I never even. I just don't know anything about Christianity. I know a little bit of Buddhism because the Buddhist temple is still there. We can go there as like visiting a park, and we see some statues, and we're taught, see, those are all really nonsense. Those really are superstitious. So that is why in the communist country, you don't have freedom of religion, because they want to wipe out anything that can be challenged to the supreme religion of communism.
Yes, it seems like from what I've read or heard that when the government wants to impute its own morality, they don't want you to have your own external or sovereign morality. And that's what I think the Bible gives you. And so maybe that's why that's attacked.
And they want also, communism is a religion without a supreme being. The supreme being is the state. Is really the power. And you have to obey. You have to believe. And if you don't, well, you're going to be punished severely most of the time.
Was there a way during that time when you could just get along with everyone and live a good life? I mean, could you just say, all right, it's communism now. Great. Let's do that. Or
Well, yeah, you can obey, or you can just try your best of not noticing what's going on, and but even obey itself is not good enough. And a lot of times, here, of course, in China, you don't have in China you don't have the freedom of speaking out. But many times you don't have the freedom of keeping silent. Silence actually is violence. Silence is not an option. You have to participate. You have to participate in the revolution, and you have to participate in such a way that you are compelled or forced to fight against the so-called perceived enemies. And whoever they were, because they keep changing. And Mao will condemn this kind of group, that kind of group. During the Cultural Revolution, the first one of the first group that Mao condemned was intellectuals. Those people that teachers and professors, he just labeled them all as a reactionary intellectual authority. Okay, so basically grouping people together and label them with such a really label them as the enemy of the state. So overnight, the students turned against the teachers and against the principals. Because why? Because they were enemies. They're enemies of the state. So the first killing that took place during the Cultural Revolution was done by a group of girls. Group of students from the girls' high school, aging from 12 to 17, they beat, tortured, and killed their principal. And after that, and there's no consequence, just like those rioters in 2020, no consequence. And then after that, the violence spread the whole country.
My gosh. Wow.
That's why they do everything that's happening here. It just happened in China. You just label someone. You label someone Hitler. And you label someone Hitler, and with the help of the mainstream media, day in and day out, you hear Trump is Hitler. It's Hitler. And what you do, just like the Red Guard, what you do with the enemy of the state, you eliminate them, right? You kill them. And that's what's happening here. That's what's exactly what happened here. You label someone and you call that the names day in and day out. And you're going to create a lot of Red Guards, just like those girls who killed their principals.
What would you say to maybe people who don't see these connections? They say, I don't know, I think it's not the same. I think it's just we're trying to be nice to everybody. We're trying to include everyone because we're a melting pot and we have a bunch of different cultures.
No. They don't say melting pot anymore. I just tweeted something the day before. Okay, melting pot is what I heard when I came here. And I really, truly want to be American. I want to be part of the culture. And I want to be assimilated. And I am fully assimilated, I have to say. But then we heard melting pot is kind of racist. So melting pot is replaced by salad ball, if you remember.
Really? I didn't know that.
We're not like a mixed together, come out all like American. We're salad ball. We're kind of independent of each other. And then they threw out the ball. Totally, the ball is gone. Now we're tribes. Now we're tribes by our identity. Now America is made into a tribal land. We all have identity. If your identity, you belong to that tribe. And everyone else is your potential enemy. That's how they divide people and set people against each other. And that's what Mao did in China. So how do we help them to understand this is history repeating? Well, learn history. That's what I do. That's what my book is about. When you see the parallels, a lot of people just kind, and they make comments on the Twitter or X, say that my book is an eye-opener. Because when you see the parallels, you got to think, oh my God, this is nothing new. This happened before. And yes, that's true. Nothing is new under the sun.
Hey, there's some Bible there.
Yeah, from the Bible, right? You think, oh, this is, the woke is all new, crazy idea. No. It's been practiced. And the result, we know, the result is disastrous. More than disastrous, the result is deadly. And so learning history is the key to wake people up.
Man. Okay, another question for you. In this movement, probably particularly that I'm in, people want to, a lot of times, they lean very libertarian, I would say, in general. And they also want to say, you know what, I'm not even going to vote because it's already corrupt. It's two wings of the same bird, the right and the left. It's going the wrong direction. What would you say to this sort of person? Is there a reason to become involved?
Absolutely. Okay, if you think that way as you describe or do what they said they would do, then the other side would win. This is something I think a lot of people don't understand. And I think most of them start to see that. The left has become communists. What we're doing, what we're dealing with here is really fighting against communists. Communists never get tired. They never sleep. They work so hard, and we have to be prepared for that. And so like even in my own county, 2020, 2021, actually, we really started a parent revolt against the school board, against what they are doing in school to our children. And then that spread to the country. And that was great. But you know what? We have to keep doing it. It's not a one-time thing. It's not an event. It's a process. The Democrats, they never sleep. They keep pushing. You give them an inch, they will take a mile. And so we have to be prepared. This is not something that you just show up, you go to school board, you have few rallies, and then it's done. It's not done. And we have to be committed that this is going to be something that we're going to do for a long time, because it took the left almost century to get us where we are here today. They are patient because they're communists. They're patient. They were in China. They all have a plan for the long haul, and they're committed. And so should we.
Man. So a lot of people, I think Eric never went to the school board meeting before around the time when you started going. Mm-hmm. And many people were like that. They thought, it's a school. We have the local school. Everything's great. And what was it what made you go to the school board meeting then? And what do you think made a lot of people kind of start getting involved in that then?
Yeah, I would say, we see disasters, but there's always a silver lining. And I think what happened in 2020 and since 2020, and people realized that the other side was pushing such radical agendas. And so radical. Now, today, we have to argue whether men can be women, women can be men, So I think because what they did, and I think there's a good reason they did it, is that they actually feel scared, the left. They feel desperate. That's why they turned the heat too fast, too high, and we're all the boiling frog. We thought we were taking the jacuzzi, right? We're thinking we were just, everything is just fine. A school board, who cares? School board, we elected them. They're doing the best for our children. Now we all of a sudden we realize, no, that's not the case. We are really being boiled to death, if we don't jump out of that jacuzzi. I think that is the good thing, that a lot of parents, like Eric, like the parents I met all over the country, people just like me, who were just really a private citizen, minding my own business, now get involved because they realize that we're really in deep trouble. And especially for parents to see that their children are in danger and they have to do something. And I think for one thing that the left successfully wakened up so many people, especially parents. And I think that is the great hope we have, that people will get involved and people will vote. And I urge everyone take this. This is such an important election. This is really an election that will determine the survival of our republic, not democracy, right? You hear they say our democracy. America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. And its survival really depends on this election. Everyone should go, not just go and talk to your friends and help them to understand, help them to wake up.
Let's say they don't. Let's say the election goes a way that you don't want it to. Can you walk us down a possible future of this country that you foresee? A possibility. Yeah. Give us the bad. Yeah. Give us the bad view, if you will.
Yeah, I would say you always have two options, and one is to learn from others' lessons, And so you learn from, they already paid the price. You just learn from them and you avoid the similar mistake or similar fate. And so you can just read about China, what happened to China, what happened to all the communist countries. Or you can figure out, you can find out yourself, meaning live through the experience, and then that will be too late. That will be really too late. So what will happen? I think COVID gave us a taste of it. What will happen is we're going to lose our freedom. We're going to be living under a totalitarian regime, which tells us what we can do, what we are allowed to think, what we are allowed to say, and where we're allowed to live, whether we're allowed to have cars, because they have planned. And it's out there. It's not that they're hiding it. They have a future for us. A future is the government, the state will be in total control, and they will put us in so-called 15 minutes cities. Have you heard about it? You heard about it, right? We're going to have nothing. Here's the thing. We have to be happy. Just like what happened in China. We had nothing, and we have to show that we are happy, that we had nothing. If you show some dissatisfaction, you will be dealt with. So that is the future. So if you're for it, then prepare to live that kind of a reality when everything is controlled. And in China, I told you, the food is rationed. Cloth is rationed. Toothpaste is rationed. And that's coming here too. For the sake of the environment, for the sake of the climate, for the environment and for our earth, we're going to sacrifice. You're going to eat bugs, okay? You are not going to eat meat. We're going to get rid of animals because they far too much, and then they pollute the environment. And you're going to have no cars because cars is bad for the environment. Okay, are you ready for that? If you want to live in that kind of a reality, go for it. I was there once, and I know what it is. You have no clue because you refuse to learn from others, from the lessons from the past, from history. But you should get ready to live in that reality when you have no control. And you think you can get on TikTok all day long and be happy. And no, they're going to have laws that you're not going to have access to this and that certain time and whatever. They are going to control every aspect of our time, of our life, and not only our body but our mind.
That sounds
good
like
picture, right? Good description of what's coming if we allow them to be successful. Are you excited?
It sounds great, Xi. It actually sounds like the opposite of America as was defined when you came to this country, and in our starting documents, it sounds quite the opposite.
It sounds like 1984. Yeah.
You're right. How much time is there between where you start noticing, oh, this is kind of weird, and then when the schoolgirls are torturing the principal? I mean...
Oh, yeah. In China, it's different because Mao had power. And here it's probably will be a little gradual, but we really passed that stage. It is no longer kind of subtle. It's really in your face. And it did not take that long. If you ask people, when did they start to notice? I think most people will say 2020. So it did not take long. And they don't have total power yet. That we have to admit, right? The left or the globalists. And that's why they're fighting. And that's why they want to make sure that they will defeat anyone who opposes their agenda. And I'm not talking about Republican or Democrats. And I'm talking about people who they cannot control and who represent the people. We, the people, they hate those candidates. They hate those people. So they have to make sure that they take them down so that they can eventually have total power. When they have total power, we're going to still have Republican and Democrats. They're still going to take turn, taking the presidency. But we know it's just for show. Behind them, the power was in the hands of a few.
Have you thought about what would motivate a group of people or a bunch, I don't know, the globalist people to do a thing like this? Have you thought about that?
Power. Mao, he was powerful, but just not enough. The same here. They have power. And also our system really allow anybody. You can be a president if you can convince the American people that you will represent their interests, you will fight for them, and people agree. You can be president, right? Anyone can be president, and but the power is limited. You can only do it twice, right? And so it's just not good enough for them. It's too much trouble, right? You have to run. You have to fundraiser. You have to convince the damn people. You have to convince them. That's just way too much trouble. So they want to really absolute power and permanent power, just like Mao. That's why it is so relevant for American people to learn about the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
That's what motivated Mao to turn the country upside down and ended with 20 million people dead. He would go that far for one thing, power. And that's what people are doing here. They will willingly destroy this whole country, burn it to the ground, and build back better in their term, on their term, which is totalitarianism.
It's interesting. If you bring up globalists or anything like that, usually in normal conversation, people will be like, well,
conspiracy,
that's
right?
conspiracy. But it's also interesting to see that a dictator has never voluntarily stepped down, as far as I know. Mao didn't. I mean, and there isn't a part where they... Yeah, go ahead.
This is one thing I think a lot of people just could not get over. And they say, oh, this is not a cultural revolution. In China, there was a Mao. That's true. In China, there was one person and there was a face. You could see it. And that is why history seldom repeats. History often rhymes. And you cannot compare two events, one in the history, one in the present, like they are the same, in order to say history is repeating. Always look for the essence of it. The essence of the Chinese Cultural Revolution is someone want power, and they want to go, as I described, they will do everything in order to achieve that goal, and the same here. And then the tactics they use are all so similar. So similar. Okay, you can say, oh, they are taking down Confucius, Buddhist statue. Here, we're just taking down the Confederate and the founding fathers. They're different. They are the same, right? They are the same. So it is kind of dumb for people to compare two historical events to look for everything that they think has to match. No. You just look for the event and then the parallels. You're finding the parallels by looking through it and see the essence of it.
And evidently the results are the same, and that's not good.
The goal is the same, and the result will be the same. You're right. Yeah, the goal is the same. And the tactics are the same. The same tactics. That's the key. Same tactics. And young people, you see that? Young people. And in China, it's the Red Guards, the kids. Really, it's the kids. Tens of millions of kids that carried out the Cultural Revolution for Mao. Here too, the kids, that they depend on the kids. And that's why we see the BMM, and then there's Antifa, and now it's pro-Hamas. Who are they? Most of them young.
What do you think is so damaging about interpreting all of history and current events through this idea of oppressor and victim? You know, the oppressor party, the victim party,
that is really the core of Marxism. And so Marxism really, in the very beginning, was divide the people into two categories: bourgeois and proletarian. Bourgeois are the exploiters, the oppressors, and the proletarian are the working class people, and then the oppressed. So what Karl Marx predict that will happen is the working class, the oppressed, will rise up and violently overthrow their oppressors and basically destroy capitalism and build this brand new society called communist society. And then, then happy ending for everyone. That was so now, every communist revolution used the same ideology, same doctrine. In China too. And Mao divided Chinese people into two categories: oppressors and oppressed. Who are the oppressor? The rich. Who are the oppressed? The poor. And then mobilize the poor against the rich. That's how they win the revolution, because they got the support of the oppressed. Okay, in America, it's kind of difficult. How many are poor? How many are rich? We have a huge middle class, so that won't work, right? That won't work. Rich versus poor, that won't work. So they have come up with something new, and that was what they did with the political identity. So you get an identity, you become oppressed. Okay, so and poor, they still use poor versus rich. And as Bernie Sanders' brand of Marxism is still the same. The poor are the oppressed. The rich are the oppressors. Billionaires are oppressors, not millionaire, because he is now a millionaire, right? So it's billionaire. Yeah. And then women are the oppressed because patriarchy, men are the oppressor. And then sexuality, LGBTQR, I don't even know the number. The letter, and they are the oppressed. And then the normal people, or they use the term cis people, they were the oppressor. You see, that's how they divide people. That's how they start a revolution. So in America, they have to be a whole lot more creative, because America is the freest country in the world, and nobody is oppressed. Our Constitution protect everyone, but now they have to use that. So that's why the identity politics keep growing and growing. Everyone can claim to be a victim and oppressed. If you are fat, now you're oppressed. You heard that, right? And then because the normal people, the people who are fit, now are regarded as the oppressor. So that's Marxism. That's Marxism 101. That's how they divide people. That's how they start a revolution. You got to have people angry. If you want to start a revolution, you got to have angry people. How do you make them angry? You tell them they are oppressed. They are marginalized. That's how.
And in in your experience, what happened to those who were oppressed after they succeeded to take over?
They become oppressed. That is the key. That is the key. So you have to know history. If you don't know history, it sounds so good, right? Eventually, after the communists took over, everyone become oppressed. Everyone become equal. Only that equally oppressed, equally poor, and equally miserable. And only those who are in power are the ones that winners. Everyone Everyone. Thank you for your question. That's a great question. After all this, after you destroyed everything, burned everything down, you build this new society, and everyone will be equally oppressed. Welcome to this utopia, and that is the communist utopia. Never failed, never will fail. That is the communist utopia.
It's interesting when you go through all those identities and you can give the oppressor and the oppressed. And if you think about your own perspective or your own identity, I start thinking, well, I identify as a Christian, for example, or something like that.
No, that is oppressor status, because Christian is considered oppressor. Any other non-Christian religion is considered oppressed. You know that. You have to read their intersectionality. They listed everything. If you have no, you really have no identity according to them. If you are white, if you are cis, according to them, if you're male, if you're Christian, if you are middle class, well, you know what? You are the enemy number one.
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
No, it doesn't. But they need enemies. So I can be, I have some intersection. I'm a woman, I'm Asian, I'm an immigrant, and whatever. But it won't save me. Why? Because I'm a conservative. That is also made you enemy number one. So we are equal. We are all enemies of the state, of the regime.
My goodness. Maybe we can revisit one thing. What would you say to people who don't think of being involved in local government as their responsibility? People who want to totally check out of things political, any public discourse.
Well, of course, if you want to surrender, if you want others to arrange your life, to tell you what you can do, what you cannot do, as I just described that utopia. If you are willing to go there, well, welcome sheep. Yes, there are a lot of people that will just, they just willingly just stay as sheep. They just follow. And you will find yourself off the cliff because you're not doing anything. And so the result will be just as bad.
Why were you attracted to the conservative movement then and the Republican Party? Was there things in that seemed different than communism?
Okay. Well, thank you for that question. I did think this a lot. First, I'm not a Republican. I never registered as any. I never registered as a Republican or Democrat. I just never did. And then I started to call myself conservative. But then I started to wonder, it's not really conservative, because a lot of conservatives are just as clueless, and because they don't even know what they're conserving. So I started to call myself anti-communist. So in a way, I don't know whether conservative, why I line myself up with conservative, is because I believe we need to conserve. And what we are conserving, it is our Constitution. It's the American founding principles. So, but that's not happening among the conservative movement. It's not clear. I think it is probably better to say restorationism, because the conservatives have to really have this narrative out and clear. We conserve what? What are we conserving? I think we have to really articulate that really well to the people who call themselves conservative. I think restorationism is a good term, because we're not to create something new, because the left, they want to create something new, right? They want to replace America with Marxism, with woke, with progressiveness, progressivism, whatever, I think we just want to go back to the beginning. We want to restore the very founding principle that make America great. Our Constitution, period. That's what we want to conserve, and that's what we want to restore, because we have been drifted away so far away from the what make America great, the founding principles, the values. And again, those values were based on Christianity.
Man, it does seem like one of the main differences is power in the hands of the people and the many versus power in the hands of the government. I mean, as one of them. But
yes.
Can you talk about, have you noticed, do you think Christianity will help this thing? What role does it have to play?
I had one chapter in my book, and there I talk about why communism have to destroy all faiths and faith and all religion, and especially Christianity, because Christianity is absolute, the mirror image of Marxism. And everything that Christianity stands for, they are against. But they do use the Christian vocabulary, the narrative, but subverted and weaponize it and use against the people, especially the Christians. Now the Christians are supposed to shut up and never question, for example, never question the open border and disaster, because Christians, you should be caring. You should love those who are less fortunate. And that's how they really weaponize Christians' goodness and kindness, weaponize it against them. So I think a lot of Christians probably get lost on the way, and they kind of buy into that narrative. They feel like, we should be caring. So I think we should support illegal invasion. And that is the problem. I think that's a problem. And that in order to defeat Marxism, we have to really revive Christianity and let the Christians understand what is real kindness, what is sharing. Sharing is individuals share your kindness and help the poor, not the government. Forcefully use our tax us and then use the money to give to others, to give not even to the poor. Nowadays, to give to the well-to-do people, the people that have college degrees. Those people are going to be doctors and lawyers, and we're supposed to cancel their student loan. So I do think that is the only way that we can defeat Marxism and communism is Christianity.
It's interesting. The Bible seems to have these, and our flavor of Christianity, they call it Torah observant, where they look at the laws in the Old Testament and say, that's really important. And I think that plays into this, because when you have proper or biblical definitions of words like love and giving and this sort of stuff, then it can't be perverted.
Yeah, all those words, equality,
they can all be redefined by the government to be love is X, love is this, love is Y. But
love is obey. Love is you obey us. You don't challenge us. Yes, that is really the real issue. That's why it's so deceptive. And I said again, communism. Let me summarize what communism is about. Communism is slavery, because it controls every part of people's lives, every part, and including what you can think, including what you can say. Also, communism is deceptive, very deceptive. That's why my parents bought into it, joined the Chinese Communist party and join the revolution because they want to build a better world. So it's deceptive and it is slavery. And if you can't see through it, you are going to end up as a slave of communism. So that's my summary.
I think that's great. Well, I know there's a million other questions I'd have for you, but I shouldn't keep you all day. Would you like to add anything else at all? Do you have anything else to say?
After almost more than an hour, I just, you want me to repeat? Communism is bad.
Thank you.
Take it from me. I've been there. It is bad.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.